Neurolinguistic programming, NLP, involving the brain, the words, and how we program our lives and experiences, behaviors, and in fact everything into that procedure. Now this basically came from two men, Richard Van Grinder, and I was there at their first seminar way back when with Virginia Satir, back in the 70s. I've worked with a whole bunch of people, other Nobel Prize winners and a bunch of other people, but that's a different story. Back to NLP. This book helped change everything for me. This Frogs into Princes, how to really make changes in a psychological world. It was very, very intriguing to me. You see, people have maps. They don't really have the exact experience. The map is not the exact, but the map is an idea. Everybody has an idea. And sometimes our ideas are wrong. Inside NLP, we have to be able to respect people's maps, recognize that, everybody has their own map. We have to be able to tune our behavior. We have to recognize we're just trying to help. There's no such thing as failure. We're trying to get feedback. But here's some of the basic questions. Question one, how would you tell your coworker is doing a good job? What would be an indicator? You just ask that simple question. Don't lead. Basically, you're going to get one of these kind of answers back. They read, they see, they hear, they feel, or they do. This is their channel of judging things. And you need to know what their channel is. Very, very few people are readers. Most people are seers. Some people want to hear, some people feel, and some people have to do it in order to ever get the message. Next question. How many times does your coworker need to do a good job to allow you to be satisfied that they're a good worker? How many times? Good question. Just ask it, Here's what you'll get. Some say none. They give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Some people say one or two times. Most people will say 3 times. And some people are never satisfied. They'll never admit. So you have to understand how they process, what their brain and how their processing works, how they judge things. How many times does it take? Next question. How would you compare what you're doing now to what you're doing a year ago? Now, you think this would be a straightforward question, but actually it doesn't really matter what you were doing, because people will answer like this. It's the same, it's improving, or it's different. Some people that it's exactly the same, they'll think it's different. Some people it's radically different, they'll still say it's the same, because it's in their mind whether things are the same, improving, or different. Some people have to have everything different. Some people like it always the same, very conservative. You have to then start to understand about people. Who makes decisions regarding your life? You would think it's always the person, but no, when you ask that question, you'll get a whole bunch of different types of answers. And oftentimes the answers will look like this. You'll have Spirit of God. That happens sometimes, rarely. They do. They say, I do. Their spouse and I do. Their family. Sometimes it's other. Job, friends, etc. You'd be surprised what kind of answers you're going to get there. But now you're starting to understand the person and how he sees the world. What are the channels that he uses? How many times does he need to see? Recognizing that there is a split brain and there's 2 different sides of us, completely different in many cases. Sometimes they don't communicate very well. And this whole thing leads us to developing different personality traits at different times, at different places, and etc. And then now we know that there's even another brain in the gut, this mesentery area. This is where you make all the hormones. So we have to bring all of this into it. Inside NLP, we're going to start to realize that most of communication is not of words. Posture, body language, facial expressions, gestures. This body language really is responsible for an awful lot of our communication. I say up to 75%, not just 55%. And once you can read these little signals, you start to get in tune with what's really happening. You start to interface with the limbic system and really to understand deeply, because so many times the word area of the brain doesn't even know what they're doing or thinking, etc. And recognize people do lie. We have to recognize. People want to protect their torso, so crossing their arms is an indication that they're turning away, that they're feeling distress. They're trying to protect it. They're turning away from you. go to a party and they turn their torso away, that means that they're distressed. That torso, that's where your vital organs are, you know. So the human torso, how we handle it, whether we protect it, etc., it's a billboard. The arms are very important. If we are using the arms openly, then that's a sign of joy, happiness. If the arms are in the air and the arms are moving, if they're tight around there, then you're protecting. But excitement and joy comes from the arms moving, etc. Restricted arms, now this means you're feeling threatened. You want to protect yourself. So you have to do this. And it draws attention away from you to protect yourself and put your arms close. You don't want to distract. You don't want to have attention drawn to you. And we'll find out that in body language, the shoplifters are the ones, they feel threatened because they're going to do a crime. And they move their arms very little. And this is how people can spot them. It draws attention. They're looking around all the time, and they restrict their arm movements. Then they can tell that they're possibly shoplifting. Hands, very important. We talk about people speaking with their hands, especially the Italians. They speak with their hands. And intelligent people will do this. And the hands are a giveaway. We start to see how they move, and then how we use the hands to control how our words are coming across, our perceptions, our moods, etc. We watch the hands. Hands are very important to watch, as well as the eyes, etc., but also to watch the hands, because they convey emotion. Whether things are big or small, or I don't care, or you, or me, or them, that's all in pointing and gestures, etc., with the hands. So it's very important. Don't hide your hands. If you hide your hands, that's a sign that you're something suspicious. If you don't want people to see your hands, you see. So hiding your hands is a sign that something might be wrong. And people will think that you're suspicious if you do that. Now we get to the face. Very, very important. As we know, different parts of the brain. The unconscious part of the brain is in control of the body language and in control of most of the face. Sometimes people can override it. But we now know that there are certain things called micro-gestures, micro-expressions. Like here's a surprise. You see eyebrows raised, eyes wide, mouth open. And these sometimes can be just micro, or sometimes they can be longer. Disgust, you see, these things. Sadness, drooping of the eyes, etc. So we start to understand these type of things. Happiness. You see, true happy smile, that wrinkles under the eye. If it's a fake smile, no wrinkles. But as you start to get into it, you start to understand these expressions, you'll start to develop an ability
at a person's face and find out exactly how they're feeling, but you have to know what to look for. With all the tiny muscles in the face, it is estimated that humans can produce over 10,000 different facial expressions. During our childhood, we are taught to put on a happy face. Even when we're not excited, we're also taught not to make faces when we don't like certain food. From our earliest moments, we're taught how to precisely control our facial movements. So while the face can be extremely honest in terms of conveying a person's emotions, it is also the area of the body that is most manipulated when trying to deceive others. When a person is angry, scared, disgusted, or displeasured, their face will become tense, as will the rest of their body. You might notice tightening of the jaw muscles, flaring of the nostrils, or squinting of the eyes. Facial contortions, furrowing of the forehead, and squinting can indicate when a person is feeling discomfort or distress. On the flip side, genuine positive emotions are shown by loosening of furrowed lines in the forehead and relaxing of the muscles around the mouth. It is also important to watch for the lips, because they tend to compress when a person is experiencing negative feelings.
These things, compressed lips can indicate negativity. And the 7 universal facial expressions, there's many, many subtle ones, but learn these. We have videos that help you to learn these more.
And will tilt to one side when a person feels comfortable and relaxed. Now, the tilting of the neck is almost impossible to fake, and it is frequently observed during courtship or when two people are enjoying a great date. The final part of the body to observe is the feet. And when a person is feeling positive, happy, and excited, they'll move their feet around like a little kid waiting to open presents.
It's a problem. Now, how about lying? You see, professionals will try to be neutral and pick up a baseline. How is the person just under normal talk? So they ask him, do you want something? Do you need a glass of water, etc., etc. And you get a baseline. Then when you start to ask them questions, you see, does that make them uncomfortable? Because if it makes them uncomfortable, then you start to understand they're breathing faster, feet jiggling, fidgeting, other signs. They're we will find out more about people as we look at this, and here even cartoonists have learned to study the face and duplicate the gestures so that we can get communications. There's two different parts of the brain, left and right. They're contralaterally controlled. It means opposite side. So we can start to learn how people are using the brain by their eye motions and their facial expressions. Then little bits and pieces of us. Sometimes there's parts of us that are more finicky. Sometimes there's more sexual sides. You see? We all have it. And there's a neocortex, 3 different ways that we see the world, 3 different types of words, back and forth, left and right, up and down. It's amazingly complex what's happening in the brain. And as we start to develop, we interpret the facial expressions. Sometimes another part of our personality will take over. We have the conservative side, trying to impress, and then the frontal lobe can kick in, the limbic system, which is in contact with all different parts, and it starts to bring up different emotions and back and forth of left and right sides, and the sexual side can take over and try to be seductive and try to allure and entrap. And it's a battle sometimes, conservative, etc., as they go back and forth, looking at each other. We need to recognize there's 2 personalities at least in every person with right and left hemisphere. An awful lot of other submodalities going on. There's some very, very complicated interaction based on our perceptions, our expectations of the future, our memories of the past, not wanting to be hurt, all those different things.
Excuse me?
As we start to find out just who we are.
Looks like you don't have that problem. Have you done some modeling? You've got a
personality.
eyes.
Sometimes we experiment.
Accent!
Or the experiment can fail.
That's French, isn't it?
Then also another key factor is the mesenchyme, the stomach brain, the gut feelings, and the chemicals that come in from the gut. There's a whole process down there. This is where all the chemicals are supposed to be made. And if we're not eating right, it gets everything distorted. And ideally, we should be working together. Different parts of the brain working together.
So, about that second date?
Our true selves. And we see how she reacts, because now her brain's being activated. What's going on in her frontal lobe? How are things happening inside her brain? The little battle going on.
Forget dating. Let's start a family.
Well, that could produce a reaction in his stomach, that's for sure. Now, you see, when we look at the eye, the image it forms at the back of the eye is upside down due to the lens. So the directions we look will stimulate different parts of the brain. By looking up, we start to stimulate the back lower part, the occipital visual area. Looking to the side, we have the temporal auditory hearing area. And looking down, we activate the section of the brain that connects to our emotional state. So as people are looking in different directions, you start to see what part of the brain that they are activating. So if you can imagine this, as you're dealing with somebody who's looking at them, that depending on which way they look, they're activating some different type of part of the brain and doing some type of process. Now let's listen to a little description about this.
All you need is just to watch his or her eyes while you talk. For example, if your partner is looking up to the left, it means that he or she is remembering something, some image or something she or he ever saw, some visual information. If your partner is looking up to the right, it means that he is imagining something. He imagining some visual image, some picture. He tries to picture something. For example, if you ask him, can you imagine yourself with the green color of your hair, and be sure he or she will look up to the right. If your partner is looking to the left, it means that he or she tries to remember what he or she ever heard, something that she or he heard before. If your partner is looking to the right, it means that he's trying to find words or expressions to tell you something. He's just trying to build sentence or something, just trying to find the right words. If your partner looks down to the left, it means that he's analyzing something or tries to discuss something inside of his head, just tries to figure out what's what. And if your partner looks down to the right, it means that he's just remembering some feelings. For example, how he felt when he was swimming in the sea, or how it felt like when the silk is touching your skin or something like that. So you see how it goes. By the way, these eye keys work for both sexes, for male and female both. The only thing is that lefties could have vice versa eye keys. For example, if person is left-handed, everything can be vice versa in his case, you know.
Not every left-handed person is different. Looking directly up is a spiritual connection. Looking directly down is the gut feeling. Now here's a little exercise I wanted to teach you. Ask the patient, ask your friend, etc. Give me 3 or 4 adjectives for nature is. Nature is. Nature is what? Let them give you adjectives. Okay? Now say, nature has some bad things about it. 3 adjectives. Okay? 3 different adjectives. So you got 6 adjectives now that describe nature, when they thought it was good and also when they thought it was bad. But the real sentence that you're asking them to solve is this: I am. As they see nature as a reflection of how they see themselves. And now you'll start to understand how they envision themselves, positive or negative. This is a lesson in Gestalt psychology, because as you perceive the whole of the world, is how you see yourself. Another real key little experiment I like to do is ask people about their favorite fairy tale. Get something real quick, and then find out what character they are in that fairy tale. That now will help to tell you more about them. So now we started to find out about their channels of learning, their channels of perception, how they judge things. We learned about their personality, etc., etc. We're doing our neuro-linguistic programming. We're starting to build a rapport. We're recognizing that it's a joint process. The two of us are working back and forth. And now we want to start to get into a little bit more direction to try to help them in a mental state and to get over disease. We want to know, what are their wants? What are their needs? They're often 2 different things. What do they want different? What is it that they're suffering about? Is it a physical problem? Is it a mental problem? Is it both? It always is some little bit of both. Family problem, etc. Because we want to try to understand, and we want to try to get at how to get rid of the bad habits. That's very, very important. We always want to be able to deal with lifestyle and helping people with bad habits. So as we start to find out what they're desiring to be different, what they want to be different, we need to put it in perspective of the bad habits and start to understand these things as well. And as we get into their perspective, what they want, what they need, what their disease is, what is wrong with what stops them from being ease, what is the dis-ease, we then come to the point of being able to find out. Give us the serenity to accept the things we can't change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is what we're working for. And then impress on your patient. All things are possible. It just takes time. Now let's learn a little bit about how our friend Bandler, what he did to reframe and reprogram something.
I want to demonstrate a little bit about what I learned. So I'm going to need a little help because unfortunately I don't bring my own clients with me because I find there's enough people who have enough horse shit no matter where I go. So I want to find, is there anybody in here that has a bad memory and you think about it way too much and makes you feel bad? You think about it, makes you feel bad? You do, sir? You seem smiling awful lot for somebody that's got a bad memory. I beg your pardon? There you go. Do you smile when you think about this? No, and it makes you feel really bad. Has it done it for a long time? Okay, why don't you come up here and sit down? Where's your name tag?
It's on my jacket.
Are you really in this seminar?
Yes, sir.
Hey, we got somebody who snuck in. Take him out and draw and quarter him, would you please? Okay, just sit, that's all right.
I'm in the chair.
You're a complicated guy, aren't you? Okay, all right. Now, you don't need to tell us what this is. That's not important. It doesn't matter what it is. So how often do you think about this?
Most days.
Most days? Okay. How do you know when to have a day off?
I've been working at it.
You've been working at what?
Trying to think about other things.
Trying. That sounds like you're failing. If I say I tried to open the door, it means I didn't, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you think about it, it does make you feel bad.
It does make me feel
bad. Okay. Do you think about it like once a day, 10 times a day?
Probably 3 times, 5 times.
Okay. And when you think about it, how long do you think about it?
Up to 3 hours.
Per time?
Per time.
That's like 9 hours in a day.
Yeah, I think about stuff a lot.
No, you think about one thing a lot because there's no day left.
Yeah, I think about it when I'm doing other things. I think about it all the time.
You think about it all the time. Well, you think about it 9 hours a day. Yeah. Okay, but let's be conservative and say...
It's been getting better.
It's been getting better. So does that mean like 7.5? All right.
Probably down to an hour a day.
Oh, an hour a day. Well, that's only about 5,000 hours a year.
Yeah.
Every 10 years, it's 5,000 hours, but, you know, not a lot of time. There's nothing you could do with 5,000 extra hours in the next 10 years. Yeah. Do you know how much sex you could have in 5,000 hours? Are you married?
No, sir.
You have we don't have time to be married. You have a girlfriend?
These two things are related.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Well...
So if I think about sex, then I'm back thinking about her, so...
Well, you can be, but if she's not there, it's not as much fun. Then you're actually having a relationship with your right hand. Hey, baby, it's you and me tonight. I love you. Okay, now let me ask you this. When you think about this, I have a guess, because I'm a very intuitive person, Virginia taught me to be intuitive, that the memory itself is either life-size or larger than life.
Larger than life.
Larger than life. So it's not only do you have a movie in your head, you have an IMAX.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's cool. So how big is it then? Is it as big as this room, or?
No, it's bigger than the world. It's.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the picture in your head. Size-wise.
The universe fits inside the picture. It's, you know, it's an existential kind of level.
I don't want to be existential. I want to be literal.
Okay.
When I say it's larger than life, is the picture?
It's kind of like as big as Boston and New York.
Well, yeah, but when you visualize something the size of Boston in your head, how big is the picture?
Oh yes, as big as this room.
Big as this room. So you have a gigantic fucking screen inside your head with a big fucking horrible picture.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a big wall in your house?
Not at the moment.
You don't have any walls in your house?
I do have walls.
Okay,
yeah,
but...
there's probably a few that are big enough.
Fairly good. Okay, if I came in and painted the most horrible thing you've ever seen on the wall in your house, would you leave it there?
No.
But you'd leave one in your head.
That seems to be what I've been doing.
Oh, okay. Seems to be what you've been doing. It seems, right. It's not really what you're doing.
No, it is. It's what I'm...
Just say yes when the answer is yes.
Yes, sir.
You want to use that penis again? All right. Now, we're going to try a little experiment because the brain is designed to remember and to forget. See, and both of those things are good things, especially if you get to choose which ones are which. And it's not so much that you forget things, it's that they don't affect you viscerally. Because when you think about this, it makes you feel bad enough that, and of course you do it again and again and again, and then you have to have some crappy internal dialogue to go with it, just, you know, because what would a crappy picture be without some sound? In fact, you should really add music.
Orchestra.
Orchestra. You got an orchestra? Oh my God. Well, there you go. It's the whole work of art, isn't it? You know, I mean, if you're going to destroy your life, why screw around? You know, violins, the whole thing, you know. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Well, if you're going to be stupid, do it in style. That's what I say. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is really quite simple. Okay. Don't do it until I finish giving you the instructions, because I don't want you to do part of it. I want you to do the whole thing. What I want you to do is I'm going to have you close your eyes and look at this big fucking nasty picture. And the minute you start to see it, I want you to shrink it down to a circle this big, and I want you to start flickering it between black and white. Okay? Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Take a deep breath, close your eyes, look at the big bad picture, shrink it down, blink it black and white, blink it black and white, blink it black and white, blink it black and white. Okay? Now, one more thing I want you to do. Okay, that's good enough. You got it. That's simple. I know how the brain works.
Yeah.
I don't understand what Freud did. I understand something that works. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Okay, now the other thing I want you to do is I want you, you know, this memory, however long it went on, it's got a beginning and it's got an end.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, it may be 3 hours long, but who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right? You know where the end is, okay? You may replay it a few times,
Yeah.
but wherever it is, I want you to look at the last picture in a minute, not yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
don't jump ahead.
Yeah.
I want you to look at the last picture, and then I want you to rewind it to the beginning as fast as possible. So everybody's walking backwards, talking backwards.
Okay, back to it. Yep.
Yeah, back to the beginning, and we're going to throw in a little circus music to make it interesting.
Okay.
You ready?
Close my eyes, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Close your eyes, jump to the end, start running it backwards. All the way to the beginning and stop. There we go. Okay, now, all you did was two things. It took us about 3 or 4 minutes, okay. And then you're convinced this was a bad thing, right?
Which?
Feeling bad about this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I want you to go back and look at it again. Can you make yourself feel bad?
No.
I can put it back if you want.
That will do just fine. Thank you very much.
Well, we're not done yet, though.
Oh, no.
Well, I worry about things. I'm a worrier by nature.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the 4,000 hours?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, well, revenge was one of the things.
Then you're still thinking about it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
See, I mean, do you want your future to be squarely aimed at your past?
No.
Do you know the best thing about the past?
It's in the past.
Is that it's over. That's the best thing about the past. You know the best thing about the future? You can do all kinds of wonderful fucking shit. You can do things you haven't even dreamt about yet because you've been too busy replaying this bullshit over and over again. If you worry about the past, it reappears. I had a friend once that got jilted by his wife. Her name was Christina. They were friends of mine. And I didn't see him for about a year. He went off and practiced depression until he got really good at it. And he would come over and he'd go, "Do you think you could help me with the depression?" And I said, "No, you're doing a fine job." So finally one time he came over and I did a little something and he was feeling pretty good and he left. And then I get this call that he's getting married. It was only like 30 days later. And I went, uh-oh. And I went over, and the weirdest thing was not only did he find someone like this woman, she looked exactly like her. She looked exactly, it was scary. And I accidentally kept calling her Christina, which was not a good thing to do, by the way. That doesn't make you a very good friend. But I just couldn't help myself. I would say, "Oh, Christina, will you pass me the sugar?" And she would go, "I'm not Christina." And I would look at him and go, "Is she or is she not?" She might be. And if she is, she'll do the same thing. But he married her, and she jilted him.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. You did beautifully.
Yeah.
So this is an introduction to NLP. You start to get a rapport, work with patients, learn about their processing, their decision-making skills, how they see things, what channels they use, and then how to reprogram them, how to create a new map, how to create a new future. And all things are possible. It just takes time and a little encouragement.